Okay. All right. So I just thought I would start today by introducing myself a little bit and introducing the work that I do with fertility. Um, so this quote, I think, is a really good one as a starting point. Our cells are always eavesdropping on our thoughts and being changed by them. I think in the West we have a really very separate view of mind and body, that they're kind of operating completely independently, and medicine works very much on the body as if it is something that's very dissociated with the mind, and we underestimate the power of the mind and body. And there's been a lot of work to that's improved that understanding, and science and medicine are definitely catching up with that now. So uh, this is where I come into to fertility work, is just looking at the impact that the mind can have on our bodies, and working with that to ensure that we're putting ourselves in the best state possibly mentally, for the fertility journey. And I hate that phrase, fertility journey. If anyone can ever come up with something less cliched, I would really appreciate it. But for now, there isn't an alternative. So I think that it is really worth thinking about fertility as a holistic issue. It's something that, I see a wide range of couples, and sometimes there are physical reasons why getting pregnant is difficult or challenging. Maybe there's health issues, or history of health issues that's causing problems. Sometimes, frustratingly, it's undiagnosed, or there's unexplained infertility. So there's a whole range of things, and no matter where you're coming from, there's a lot of things that you can do to improve your fertility. So even if there are physical conditions there, things like improving your diet, managing your stress levels, getting some medical help, all of those things can come in and work together. So I think this quote from Dr. Richard G. Petty is quite wise. It's always a mistake to look for a single cause to a problem, or an imbalance, or an illness. Not only is it usually wrong to think of one illness, one cause, but it's also invariably insufficient to use one therapy or one health maintenance plan. Carefully coordinated combinations of treatments are key. And once you learn how to use combinations, the effect can be magnificent. So I think I work with the Fertility Partnership in Norwich, so I'm very much used to working with other therapies, and also we're quite often working in conjunction with IVF treatment and the medical profession as well. So sometimes it's about being aware of what your individual needs are and how different things might support you in your journey. So in terms of the mind-body technique, so that's where my skills lie. It can be really, really valuable for reducing stress and increasing feelings of calm and relaxation. And I'll talk to you, that's the one I really want to focus on today, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a moment. Also, identifying and resolving conscious and unconscious blocks and issues that we may have. Our bodies are always listening to our mind, and sometimes we have fears or anxieties or worries about parenthood, about pregnancy, about finances, and those blocks, those fears, those worries, albeit clearly anybody who is trying for a baby wants a baby, but sometimes there can be some kind of mixed message going on with the body if there are fears around that, or fears around lifestyle changes. So it can be really useful tool for helping to change conscious blocks, and sometimes discovering unconscious blocks, things that you might not even be aware of. Also, obviously, supporting positive lifestyle changes. So I think everybody knows that having a healthy diet, not smoking, not drinking too much alcohol, all these kind of things are going to be really supportive in a fertility program. But they're not always so easy to take on board. So hypnotherapy is a very good tool to have in your toolbox for that reason. And then sometimes working alongside medical treatment, preparing, as simple as, working with people who have needle phobias, who are then having to inject themselves on a daily basis, or just visualizing positive outcomes and mentally rehearsing going through treatment, and then just a general kind of support and teaching of tools to manage what can be a very, very stressful journey. And of course, if you weren't stressed before the fertility issues began, then certainly working through fertility issues can be stressful in itself. So sometimes I'm working with people to restore their self-esteem, their self-worth, to manage the emotions, the whole gamut of emotions that can come up around fertility, guilt, sadness, jealousy, all of these kind of really difficult emotions that make it even harder to work through, building coping skills and resources, and repairing that relationship with your body. I think we can really lose faith in our body and trust in our body's ability to work with us on this. And then reducing the effects of fertility treatment, balancing out the hormones. It can be the hormones that are involved in IVF treatment can often really give people a bit of a wobble, so it can be really helpful to have some skills to balance that out. So those are just some of the ways that we can use hypnotherapy. So I wanted to focus predominantly today on two that are fairly general and relevant to everyone. So I think stress in the first place is a really important one to recognize. And I think my first thing, quite often people don't recognize that they're stressed, because we think of stress as being something that is unpleasant, and so sometimes, because we feel quite healthy, we feel quite positive, we don't feel like we need to go to the doctor because we're stressed, or it doesn't feel like we're ill or anything like that. We don't recognize that we are in an overly stressed state, because sometimes people like adrenaline can feel good, being busy can feel good, or at least okay. So a lot of us are quite used to living in a quite high stress environment, and stress does have a massive impact on the reproductive system. So I've got a picture here of female athletes, because it's a reasonably well-known fact that women who train very, very hard physically often experience a halt in their periods. So it's quite common for women to stop having a period or a menstrual cycle when they are training really hard. And that is because when we're under stress, our bodies prioritize energy going to the stress response. So, and this is a survival tactic. Yeah. If, for example, you were being chased by a bear way back when, that might have been a potential experience for somebody, then the body is going to prioritize the energy for running away from a bear over, knocking out that next egg, or that next period, or fluffing up your uterine lining, or any of those things. So what happens in the stress response is that our bodies put all our efforts into whatever that it is that we're doing. And of course, in modern day situations, that stress response is called upon more often, but also is probably less appropriate for the kind of things that we are needing it for. But it's a bit like a turbo button, but it takes a lot of energy. So and that energy is taken away from the reproductive system. So particularly if there is any underlying issues already making fertility slightly more difficult, then having that energy taken away is going to enhance that. But also in cases of unexplained infertility, then that can be the kind of balance there. It can be a real factor, a genuine factor. And of course, we know that people get pregnant in stressful situations. That does happen often. But what we're looking for really is to just get you into the most fertile state that you can possibly be in. And one of the things that we can do to help that is to reduce stress. So if we look at this next slide, I think, and this is something I talk about with all my clients. I work in women's health as a wider picture. So fertility is a big part of my work, but I talk to women about all kinds of health issues and sometimes men as well. And I think this is a very typical picture of modern life, is that we kind of tend to get up in the morning and our stress levels raise and just keep going up, and then sort of plateau at the top, and we keep going all day. You know, that's our picture. And then if we're lucky, we come home at night and start to wind down. But some of us maybe come home and then start doing, you know, all the housework and various things at home. So we're still maybe up here, or even particularly as people are working at home a lot, continue working. So you've got this plateau, which means that instead of, if you look at the sort of paleo-human pattern, you've got dips in the day. So there are these peaks, and we are designed for stress. That's absolutely fine and normal. So we might have that sort of peak of stress, but then there's a rest period in the day, and there's this kind of up and down trend. So you can kind of think of that as your body resetting. So it's dipping back into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest, repair, reproduce kind of side of our system, which allows us to kind of do the general maintenance and housekeeping in our bodies. So that constant dipping in and out of stress allows our bodies to keep ticking over, to keep healing, to keep all those processes going. Whereas our modern lifestyle, this kind of just coming up to a peak of stress and staying there all day, means that for a lot of us, you know, we aren't getting into that rest and digest and repair state for much of the day, and that's maybe only happening at night. So there's a lot less resources going to that, and so that can have impact on people's digestive system, on fertility, on all kinds of health issues. You know, if you've ever experienced you know, you take 2 weeks off to go on holiday or for Christmas or whatever, and within the first few days you get really sick, that's always a very good sign that you're working in that stress response, because the minute that you let that down, your body's just flooded with all this backdated repair work, if you like. So just a little exercise that you can do to just get a picture of this. And one of the things that I work with people to do is to start to have a better relationship with their body, so that you can recognize when you are stressed and recognize the difference in your body when it's calm and when it's stressed. So therefore, when you're in your repair mode, in your reproductive mode. So if you just take your fists for a moment and just really clench and squeeze. Nobody else is on video here, so it's just me looking silly here. But yeah, just sort of squeeze your fists and clench and really focus on that tension. And then whilst you're doing that, I want you to just check in with your breath and see what's happened to your breathing. And what you'll probably notice, you can stop now because that isn't very pleasant. What you'll probably have noticed is that your breath either completely stops sometimes or becomes very shallow. And that is a symptom of being in what's called the sympathetic nervous system. That's the fight or flight response. So that's the turbo mode we're talking about. So if you now So do that again. So you've got that shallow breathing, tense breathing. So very shallow, very tense. And then if you let that go, you'll probably notice there's an automatic shift as you release that stress, especially if it hasn't automatically happened, just like loosen up your shoulders a bit. The breath becomes bigger, you know, it fills more of your body. And that is you slipping into the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's the rest and repair side. So it's a very simple kind of demonstration. And you can bring that on by actually consciously using your breath to take you into that. So if you've ever done yoga or meditation, you might have tried this already. But a calm breath, a breath that is the symptom of the parasympathetic nervous system, would be something like a breath into the belly for a count of 4. So, and then sighing that breath out to the count of 6 or 8. If you can do 8 comfortably, then go for that. But if it's not comfortable, stick with 6, but just that slightly longer out breath. So into 4, in 2, 3, 4, and out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In 2, 3, 4. Out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In 2, 3, 4. And out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if you've been doing that along with me, and if you haven't, do have a go at that. You probably will really feel a difference. So for me, I kind of feel a little bit more spacey, just a little bit looser, a little bit lighter, certainly calmer. And that's the kind of thing that you can really do within your day, you know, just picking something you do regularly. So maybe it's when you take a sip of water, maybe it's when you go through a door, maybe it's when you go to the loo, or just when you read an email, something that you can kind of remember to do, just a couple of those breaths, and it's almost like hitting a reset button and starting to train your body to create those little dips that we talked about. So another thing that I work on with people is the effects of emotion, and I think this is the thing that fascinates me about hypnotherapy, is this connection that we have to our bodies, that when we think certain thoughts, our bodies respond, and that there is a physiological response in our body. And I love this image because to me it just really shows very recognizable responses in our body, and just is a very tangible is very tangible evidence of that. So if you look, for example, I love surprise. You know, if you think of when someone's surprised, that, you know, is the raised eyebrows and the kind of wide open eyes. And if you look at that image, the heat in that image, so therefore the place where the physiological response is most active, is in the eyebrows up there. So it's a very recognizable expression of emotion, so that you can kind of see what's going on in the body. And shame, similarly, but we're moving to the cheeks here, and we've all had that moment where we blush. Pride, that kind of pumped up chest, this very glowy kind of upper body. And then if you look at happiness and love, I really like that image, because happiness is just this all over glow, and love is very much the same, except that there's a highlight in the groin area. So it's almost like happiness with sort of sexual feelings, anger, white hot fists there, you know. And I don't know about you, but if ever I feel angry, there is this real pent up energy in my fists. I've never punched a wall, but I can understand why some people do that. So you can just see how those expressions, and depression, just that complete lack of energy there. That's that's quite a sad one there, this kind of very blue feeling. And shame is an interesting one, because it's also that very blue around the edges. So yeah, you can start to see how our bodies are affected by our emotions, and so I think this really helps you to understand how the emotions of being on a fertility journey may well be impacting. And I think particularly once you've already been struggling with fertility for a while, it can be really hard to find any positivity. It can be really easy to sink into some of those less empowering emotional states. And whilst, of course, we all know that being positive is a good thing, and we've all probably heard from some helpful person that, just relax, it will happen, that kind of thing. It's all very well to know that, but it's quite another to be able to kind of start to claw that back, or to start to take control, or feel in control. And again, that's where hypnotherapy comes in. And so this next exercise that I want to show you is a really useful tool to have in your toolkit. But it's also, from my perspective, I think a really useful one to help me explain how hypnotherapy can help. So if you just do this along with me. So if you just start by thinking, this is a technique that you could use, and it is for essentially shaking off emotions. So it's really important to acknowledge that emotions are there for a reason. So if you're feeling sad, that sadness is there to tell you something important, to shift you into action. Something is not right in your world, and that sadness is supposed to be unpleasant to kind of help you to move into something different. And this is where we can feel quite stuck in fertility issues, because of course the thing that you want is out of your control. So that sadness, sometimes you can feel very stuck in it. So first thing with emotions is always to recognize that emotion and what it's telling us, and understand it and acknowledge it. And sometimes we're that can be empowering. It can give us some feedback about things that we could do. Sometimes, sadly, we're not empowered by that, or that it's something out of our control. So this is a way that you can shake off emotions that are kind of lingering. It's not a fix-all. It's not going to transform your journey entirely just by having this tool. You'll never have to feel emotions. That's not the idea. But sometimes we can get stuck in emotions, and this is a good one just to kind of shake that off. So ordinarily you would use this if you were feeling, for example, angry or sad or anxious, or any of those kind of disempowering or less empowering emotions. And so you wouldn't have to do what I'm about to ask you to do. But for now, what I want you to do is think about a time when you felt one of those emotions, or an emotion that's problematic for you, or that you tend to get stuck in. And I would ask you, particularly because I'm not here to, or I'm not able to guide you through it, particularly if you're watching this as a recording, and also because I'm not about making you feel unpleasant, if you can just find one that is not that's an unpleasant emotion, but don't pick a really extreme example of that, because you're going to recreate that feeling. So a situation maybe that's made you feel a bit anxious, but don't take yourself somewhere too awful. Okay, so if you just close your eyes. And one of the things that we talk about in hypnotherapy is the difference between being associated and dissociated. So if you are associated in a memory, that means you're going to be seeing as though you were seeing through your own eyes. So if you're remembering a situation that made you feel anxious, or even thinking about something in the future that might make you feel anxious at something you've got coming up, you're imagining it as though you were there, seeing through your own eyes, hearing what you heard, feeling what you felt, okay, or feeling what you would feel. Dissociated would be when you saw yourself in that. Another really important thing to say is that some people are very visual. So you may be closing your eyes now and having a really good movie, panoramic view of what's going on here. Some people less so. You might have a kind of very vague image or no image at all. So sometimes other senses are prominent for us. So it might just be the feeling is the prominent thing. So as you imagine being in that situation, you just have that feeling. It might be that you can hear either what was going on in that situation or your thoughts. You might be kind of just remembering what you were saying to yourself in your head or what somebody was saying to you. So in whatever way you remember that, or in whatever way you imagine that scenario, it's absolutely fine. Okay, so just closing your eyes and taking yourself there. And when you do that, when you start to play that movie or that experience in your mind, you'll probably start to feel some of the feelings of anxiety. And you may have to play around with this until you get them, and just play around with how you do it. So if you're focused on your image and that's not working for you, try going through what would you be hearing, what would you be saying to yourself, what would you be feeling, and you'll start to feel those panicky feelings or whatever the emotion is. And once you've got that, I just want you to pick a fist and squeeze it, and then just imagine, in whatever way is right for you, that feeling just going into your fist. You don't have to know how to do that. Just have that intention that that feeling is going to go into your fist, and then you shake it out. And you can open your eyes. So the first thing to say about that, and obviously it's a bit harder when I haven't got the opportunity to work with you directly, but for most of you should have been able to create that experience for yourself. And that in itself is quite an important thing to know, that we can make ourselves feel crappy just by the way that we're thinking. We can, by going over things that have happened or by worrying about things in the future, we can bring real feelings of anxiety, of stress, of sadness, of grief into the moment, and feel that physically. So that's the first thing, that we have that power to do that. And what we've done there, by squeezing your fist, we've set up what's called an anchor. And anchoring is something that the brain does naturally. It's the way that the brain learns to protect us, essentially. So if two things happen at the same time, the brain makes a note of that, just in case there's any connection, so that the next time, so for example, if there was an angry dog and then the dog bit you, the mind will create a memory path there, that if it sees an angry dog in the future, it knows that leads to something bad, so it will give you that adrenaline boost to run away. Equally, if the brain learns that something brings you pleasure, it will create a pathway there, and next time you see that thing, this is how we get addicted to certain kinds of food. It will kind of go, oh no, this made us feel very happy in the past, let's do that again. So this anchoring is part of the way that the brain learns. So what we've just done there is create at least a temporary anchor between that feeling, whatever you chose, and the fist. So now what we're going to do is think of something that made us feel positive. And that can be anything. It doesn't have to be, the most amazing moment you ever experienced. It could be something as simple as the feeling of waking up on a Sunday morning and stretching out in bed knowing you don't have to do anything, or laying on a sun lounger. You can see what kind of person I am. But something that makes you feel good, going for a walk in the country, looking at a loved one, anything at all. So just think of a moment or an experience that was positive, that brought you kind of happiness or calm or joy or excitement, anything positive. And you're going to do the same thing. So just close your eyes, take yourself back to that moment, and you'll already have some experience of this. So you'll be aware whether you're very visual, whether it was the thoughts that got it going, whether it was imagining what you were hearing, whether it was the sensations. So you can start to create that experience in your body again in just the same way that you did before. Just seeing what you saw, hearing what you heard, and feeling what you felt, and just start to become aware of that feeling in your body. And this time, when you get a hold of that feeling, just really focus on the feeling, how it feels in your body. And just imagine you had like a turntable, and you could turn up the volume on those feelings, because these are positive feelings. We may as well have the best of it. So just imagine you could like turn them up. So, you know, if you've got a real lightness and a looseness, or a lifted feeling, whatever it is for you, just imagine you just feel it more as you turn that up. And then once you've got it as strong as you can, just squeeze the opposite fist and do the same as you did before. Just imagine that feeling just draining into the opposite fist. And then shake it out. So you've now got two anchors, one to a positive feeling. And again, if this hasn't quite worked for you, it's something I can talk through with you at the end, because there's some simple reasons why sometimes it doesn't quite work, and it's not because you're broken. It's just some tweaking that we can do. But you've now set up hopefully two anchors, one to a positive, one to a negative, and that allows us to then basically scramble the brain's way of doing the negative emotion. So in a moment, what I'm going to ask you to do is squeeze both fists whilst you go back to that first memory, the one that made you feel something negative. And already just by squeezing both fists, you'll experience probably some sort of confusion, because your brain is experiencing the negative trigger, but also at the same time it's experiencing the positive emotions that you fueled with the other anchor. So you experience some confusion, and then you can let go of the negative fist and just have the positive fist, and it just kind of floods some positive emotions into that memory, into that anchor. So it's a bit like scrambling the signal, if you like. So it's a really good way of just breaking that state. But it also is a really good way of explaining how hypnotherapy can work. One of the ways in which it can work, in that it can help us shift patterns of emotions, patterns of thinking. It can help. So this would be the sort of thing, a very simple version of the way I would work with trauma, for example, because when people have had a traumatic experience, every time they revisit that trauma in their mind, they bring back all of those feelings in that anchored way that we just talked about. So what we can do using a similar technique is to bring more resourceful states into that memory. So it just shifts the perception and the experience of the memory. It doesn't take it away. It doesn't mean that bad things don't happen or that traumas haven't happened, but it can just change your relationship to those experiences. And in fertility, you can do the same thing. It's not a magic wand. It doesn't make it okay that you're going through what you're going through, but it can make you feel more resourceful in that moment. So close your eyes, squeeze both fists, and then just go back to that first memory, the one that made you feel the negative emotion. And just try and get back to those feelings, and you'll probably find it's harder to find them because we've done this kind of brain scrambling thing. And then once you've experienced that, let go of the negative one and just let yourself experience the positive feelings. And then open your eyes, and hopefully you can see how that's something maybe you can use just to break a state, if you're finding yourself in a bit of a rut, or stuck in an emotion, but also hopefully it's a good illustration, like I say, of how our emotions can impact us and how our thoughts can shape our emotions. And that's one of the things that I spend a lot of time working with people on, because again, it's one thing to say your thoughts shape your emotions, that's what you need to do, but it's quite another to start to have the tools that you need to learn to take charge of your thoughts, and that's something that we can do. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and come to this relaxation. So this is going to be about a 20-minute relaxation here. And I will just trying to mess with my view here. Okay, so I'm just going to talk you through this relaxation. So if you can just find yourself somewhere nice and comfortable that you can sit. You might want to think, so you can be sat upright in a chair, that's fine. You could lay down on the floor or a sofa or a bed, that's fine too. Sometimes I personally find I like to have my head supported, that's just a personal preference, so you might want to think about whether that would be something that's important for you. And what I'm going to do is talk you through, this is one of my favourite relaxations, and if you like it, you can I can email it to you, or I can send it through WeTransfer for you. I've got a recorded version of this one, and it's, so first of all, it's a relaxation, so it's 20 minutes, 25 minutes, no, it's about 20 minutes of relaxation. So that in itself is one of the really positive things about hypnosis, is that we are talking you into a relaxed state. That is very healing and nurturing for all the reasons. It's the antithesis of stress. So that in itself is really powerful. But it's also a state in which we can kind of get in touch with our inner resources. We can sometimes get a bit of insight and a perspective on what's going on. So this particular one is about goals, and I would imagine those of you listening to this today, the goal is very much around fertility, and so it's an opportunity to gain some insight into the kind of things that are going to support you in your goal, the kind of habits that you want to bring in, the way that you want to nurture yourself, maybe thinking that you want to bring in, beliefs that you want to bring in. So it's a really good opportunity to reflect and get some perspective on that. And things that you want to get rid of, things that are not helping you, things that are not supporting you. So I'm going to assume that you've managed to get yourself nice and comfortable. So the next step is just to close your eyes. And you can always use that breath that we talked about earlier to just start to relax you. So just finding a comfortable place, making any adjustments that you need to make sure that you're really comfy. And then just beginning to focus on your breath. Just letting that out breath be slightly deeper, longer rather than the in breath. Feeling the kind of letting go feeling on that out breath. Just let yourself release more and more on each out breath. Notice the heaviness in and around your eyes, the softening of the muscles around your eyes. Just allowing those eyelids to feel really, really heavy and comfortable. And then just imagine, and actually I'm quite used to doing this in my office, but for many of you, this won't need to be much of an imagination. But imagine yourself in your home, in your favourite comfy spot, and maybe that's where you are already. Just snuggled down with blankets, with cushions. Maybe the windows and curtains shutting out the cold. And imagine it's a wet and blustery day outside. The walls, the windows, the doors, the insulation, the heating in your home just allow you to feel really comfortable. You're aware of noises coming from outside, maybe a storm. Perhaps you can hear raindrops on your window, the sound of the wind whipping through the trees, the lashing sound as a gust of wind drives the rain against the glass. And you know you're safe and warm, completely protected within your home, where you can control the temperature, where you can grab extra blankets if you feel chilly, or turn the heating up, where the rain can't penetrate and the wind can only rattle your window. You feel safe and secure. You feel a deep sense of gratitude that you're here in the warm and not out there in the cold and the wet. And there's nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to do, but just let your thoughts drift like leaves on the wind as you listen to my voice. And just pay attention to how warm and comfortable you feel. Just relax and let go. Relax and let go. And maybe you hear the engine of a car starting up further along the road, or maybe you hear distant footsteps of people passing by your home. And you just feel that sense of security in the knowledge that no one can enter your home without an invitation from you. This is your home, your place of safety. You are in control here. And as you rest comfortably, you can pay attention to the sound of rain against your window. Just imagine it, that sound of rain lashing against the window, whilst you're safe and warm inside. And that rain comes down heavier and faster, and the wind is howling. And these noises, this awareness of what's going on outside, only serves to draw your attention to how safe and warm and protected you feel. The rain heaves down in sheets, and the wind is howling, and you are safe and warm and cozy. And rather like your home can protect you from bad weather and enable you to control the conditions inside, who you allow in, what you allow in, your skin serves a very similar function for your body, separating you from all that is not you, holding all those important physical parts of you inside a U-shaped package. And your skin is truly amazing. It's porous, so it can allow you to absorb all of the good things it needs from the world, like warmth of the sun, the moisture from a shower, but also allows you to release toxins through sweat and other excretions. So the skin provides us with a protective barrier to keep all that is good inside of us and to expel all that is unhelpful to our physical well-being. And we can help with this process. We can help with this process by ingesting beneficial foods and water, by exercising in ways that maximize our body's health and efficiency, restoring balance. And just as our bodies and homes have a protective shell, so too does our mind and our internal world. And we can take charge of this too, clearing out that which doesn't benefit us and bringing in more of what does. We can become mind gardeners, becoming aware of the weeds of thoughts that aren't helpful to us, gently challenging them and replacing them with the seeds of thoughts which help us to grow, to be at peace, to find acceptance. And once we take charge of our inner world, we can learn to weather other storms, protected and safe in our inner world, whilst we navigate the various storms of life, feeling comforted by the knowledge that we're in control here. We control our thoughts, and we can always choose a thought that feels better. So I want you to imagine that, like your home, this protective shell has doors and windows that can be open and shut. And through these doors and windows, you can release anything that no longer serves you, anything that's holding you back, any blocks, any fears, any unhelpful thoughts. Just imagine chucking them out the window or pushing them out the door. You control what comes in, what comes out. You can invite anything that will be helpful to you in. So new ideas, new beliefs, new habits, new behaviours, new skills, new perspectives on things, new feelings, empowering feelings, feelings of strength, feelings of resilience, feelings of calm, perhaps. And you can really picture or imagine this protective shell now, like a home built around you with doors and windows which can be open or closed. You control what comes in and out. And just pay attention to any repairs that your home may need. And just use your imagination to make those repairs now. Strengthen your shell in any way that's needed now. Give it a lick of paint, do some repairs. Whatever you instinctively feel is needed now. Breathing in and out, a calm and gentle way. Allowing your breath to repair, reinforce your protective shell. And I want you to open this home to all that will allow you to feel strong and safe. Just become aware of a sense of calm and relaxation within your inner world now, knowing that nothing can ever affect you in quite the same way again. And I want you to bring to mind a goal that you have now. So maybe you have a specific goal around fertility, or a goal that will support your fertility, or maybe you want to focus on something different altogether. Just bring that goal to mind and just become aware of anything within your inner world that may be preventing you from achieving this goal. And you might become aware of these things literally, as words, as thoughts, or symbolically, as objects or feelings or symbols. It really doesn't matter. You may consciously know what these things are, or you might just have a sense of some random objects that you want to chuck out. It really doesn't matter. Just trust your unconscious mind, and these things will pop into your thoughts in whatever way is appropriate. You don't have to try to do anything. And when you're ready to move towards your goal, you can allow these things to exit your home, your shell. Just imagine breathing those things out through a door, through a window, letting go of any limiting beliefs, any blocks or fears, any unhelpful emotions. It's as though you're having a bit of a spring clean. Start to feel a sense of lightness as they leave you. That's right. And now that you've cleared some space in these walls, you can begin to think about things you'd like to invite in to help you to move towards your goal. And they may be feelings, skills, new, healthier beliefs, new behaviours, new habits. So just picture your goal now. Just imagine maybe a moment or two after you've achieved your goal. Imagine being there in your own body a minute or two after you've achieved your goal, and notice what you can see, what you can hear, what you might be saying to yourself. Any feelings associated with achieving your goal. Just really allow yourself to experience those positive feelings, positive thoughts. See through your own eyes as you experience achieving your goal. And again, like we did earlier, just imagine that you could turn up those feelings, those sensations, the colour, anything in that experience. Just really experience this as intensely as you can, so that you're experiencing it as though it's your experience. If you aren't already, just step into it, seeing through your own eyes, and just enjoy that. And know that as you're doing this, you're setting the sat-nav for your unconscious mind to follow. So you're showing your unconscious mind, you're teaching your body this anchor, teaching your body how good this will make you feel, creating that anchor so that your body really understands that, and the destination is clear, just like sat-nav. No matter what roadblocks or wrong turnings may come up, your unconscious mind, your body will just recalculate, just like sat-nav. So for now, just step out of your end goal, just for now. Being present in the here and now, in your protective shell. And as you think about your goal, I want you to breathe in everything that will serve you in moving towards this goal. Breathe in examples of others who've achieved this goal or something similar. Breathe in the states or the qualities you need to achieve this goal. Maybe feelings of calm, feelings of acceptance, maybe strength, maybe determination, whatever you feel instinctively you need. It doesn't matter how you experience this, just imagine you're breathing in these things. That's right. And you can know that your unconscious mind now knows your goal and is completely on board to help you, mind and body, to work towards it. Your unconscious mind knows you're ready for this goal now. That's good. And you can now close all the doors and windows, just allowing all of this to settle inside. Allowing all that you've received to find its place. come to rest. Your goal and everything you need to do, to be, to feel, is saturating every cell of your being, the deepest parts of your unconscious mind, every fibre of your being, your spirit. And so it will be. And the work you've begun today will continue with every breath you take, even when you're asleep. You'll be moving closer and closer to your goal. And so in a few moments, I'm going to be calling you back into full alertness, bringing with you this comfortable place, this calmer, more supportive inner world, allowing all of that to continue to settle into place. So just beginning by becoming more aware of the room around you, of the sounds of your home, maybe sounds outside, maybe the creaks and groans of your house, or the sensation of the surface you're sitting or lying on. And you can start to take some deeper, more energizing breaths. Wriggle fingers and toes. Stretch in ways that feel comfortable for you. And then open your eyes when you feel ready to do so.